And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, to repeat the breaking news, conservative media personality and activist Charlie Kirk was shot at an event at Utah Valley University. He is currently in critical condition at a hospital.
And right now, it is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the RNC representing the state of California. You can get him online at ShawnSteel.com. Shawn Steel, welcome.
Wow, what news, what sobering news. We're talking about saving the republic, the existential attempted death of the California Republican Party, and then Charlie Kirk, and that, and I just, everyone is just stunned with that. Another assassination, another conservative, and this is just it really, we have to really think of our premises. In California, we're looking at a kind of a interesting, sophisticated political type of treachery taking place. And this Proposition 50 is one of the strangest animals of power grabbing we've ever seen in California politics. They're changing the California Constitution. They're changing the California Constitution with another constitutional amendment to suspend the California Constitution temporarily. And when a politician says he's doing something temporarily, he means forever.
Yeah, and we've learned that in California any number of times with Jerry Brown's tax increase, with bridge tolls, fill in the blank. That's something that we've seen repeated time and time again.
Well, I'm guardedly optimistic. I think we see a lot of folks see the politicians drawing districts to please themselves and to ace out their enemies. Republicans got 40% of the vote for congressmen. They have 17% of the seats. Out of 52 seats, Republicans have 9. But, the Democrats still think that's too much, and they want to really quash it down to maybe 4 or 5. So it doesn't matter. There's no proportional representation in California. It's just simply based upon naked greed.
One of the things that Gavin Newsom is expected to do in this campaign for Proposition 50 is he's going to campaign in very partisan terms, where you're a Dem, you vote yes, you're a Republican, you vote no, there's more of us than of you, so we just need our people to turn out, and that's all we need to do to win. That's how he won the recall election when that was on the ballot. How do Republicans get around that? Well,
there's so many components on this. First of all, Gavin Newsom is wrong. Back then, it was a popularity contest between himself and people that just didn't like Gavin, but it wasn't enough. He had $100 million. There wasn't much of a campaign to recall him at all. There wasn't any juice. This one's much different. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's been out of politics for 15 years, whose reputation has gotten much better because now he's remembered as a movie actor. He's all in against this. It was his bill to have an independent commission along with Charles Munger. So they got this thing passed in 2008, 2010. The vast majority of voters voted for an independent commission. And now the Democrats, Newsom himself is trying to strip that away so that he can run for president in 2028. I mean, the real objectives and the real goals are very nicely disguised. Newsom doesn't care if it wins or loses. He just wants to be the front runner for 2028. And his problem is he'll be after 2026, he'll no longer be governor. And so he's trying to strive for relevance. He's trying to be the anti-Trump. So it's explicitly political, but it's bad policy. Most people want an independent commission. And there's that 20% in the middle, voters, the so-called moderate voters. And that's what Charles Munger is going after. That's what he's spending his money on to try to make this truly independent. There's a number of Democrats and independents that want to keep the independent commission. And plus, Republicans really don't have a choice. They want to keep it too. That's the majority.
Let's talk about Gavin Newsom here for a second, because he is a guy who has been many things over the years. When he first was in elected office in San Francisco, he was more of a conservative than his colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. When he ran for lieutenant governor after He was elected mayor of San Francisco. He did so because Jerry Brown would have beaten him had he challenged Jerry Brown in the Democratic primary. So he ran as a right-of-center Democrat who wrote a book about citizen government that Mark Levin praised, and I think Mark Levin wrote a review of on the flap of the book. Then he runs for governor, and Antonio Villaraigosa has all of the money from the charter schools, so Gavin needs the teachers' union, so he runs to the left. When he decides he needs to beat the recall, he's the partisan warrior. Then the Democrats lose the presidential election, and then he decides that he's going to be the Dem who can talk to MAGA, and he gets a negative reaction there. So now he's the Democrat who hates Republicans more than anyone else. What the real Gavin Newsom thinks, I don't know. I don't know the man. I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know what he actually thinks. I only know what he puts out in the public domain. Given the fact that he's now branding himself as the partisan warrior, and prior to that, he was the Democrat who could talk to MAGA, and Charlie Kirk was the first person that he decided to do a sit-down with to prove that he could have a dialogue with the other side. Do you think, given his new political profile and just I mean, I don't know about you, I'm sick to my stomach right now. Every time I click refresh on my social media feed or look at the news, it's more images of Charlie getting shot and more news about what happened in Utah. I don't even want to look at my phone anymore. I'm that sick to my stomach as we sit here digesting and learning about what's going on in Utah. Given the fact that when Newsom played footsie with being the Democrat who could talk to MAGA, and now he is turning the volume up as high as he can, whatever he actually thinks in his heart, do you think there's any reflection going on right now of maybe the public persona that I have right now is not the best idea, and maybe I need to dial it back, maybe I need to reflect on this and take a different path?
I think a spiritual person or somebody that was seriously considered their role as a human being on this earth would. Sadly, Gavin has never shown. It's almost psychotic. He's never shown that kind of true empathy about other people. He was the one that slept with his best friend's wife when he was mayor. He was the one that can change on a dime without any concern or cause of consequences. He's a situationist. Whatever seems to be good for him at that moment, doesn't think about the future that much. He'll happily jump into and do it. He's been a cipher his entire life. He really hasn't had a job. He really hasn't done anything pronounced. He's left San Francisco far worse than when he found it. That's when the great decline took place. And of course, California is in an ultimate decline that we all know about. We talk about every single day. But he doesn't care. Even this idea of seizing power and changing the lines for congressional districts is just another tool for him. And the objective is not so much to any sense of fairness or justice. It's just to promote himself as president. My God, what a horrible president he would be, because you can never trust that person.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, as you mentioned, is a bold-faced name who says he will campaign up and down the state against Prop 50. One of the things that Arnold Schwarzenegger has long talked about is reaching across the aisle, having dialogue with the other side, and he looks at this as just a naked partisan ploy for partisan gain, and he's going to attack it on those grounds. In light of what happened today, do you think that the public will be more receptive to a message like the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger says that he's going to give about being able to talk to the other side and not just shutting them out of the room?
Exactly. When we turn to violence, it's been kind of a one-way street. All this talk about, so-called right-wing militias, and we've never seen that. It really virtually doesn't exist, but we've seen vicious gang warfare. We've seen vicious left-wing assassinations, oddly enough, by older white guys against Congressman Scalise, who's crippled for life in a baseball field in Virginia. He and other Republican congressmen were targeted and shot at, and he got shot up very badly. I've seen him and met him many, many times. Trump twice. There was a serious assassination attempts. against him. You don't hear that happening to left-wing Democrats because the culture is different. The left tolerates violence. Look at the social media, and this is probably what would make you sick. There are people celebrating that Charlie Kirk got dead and that they hope he dies. There are people doing that right now. And the left is so far estranged from the American core values, they find violence acceptable. That's why they were attacking National Guard troops. That's why they attack policemen. They don't like this country. So this is a very serious social problem. Newsom was part of that mindless disattachment from core American values. So, yeah, if it has to rip up, and he's ripping up the California Constitution on Prop 50. That's why we have to vote against it. Prop 50, the entire inception on that was done 4 days in the legislature. When the Independent Commission starts drawing lines, it takes them a year and a half. So when you're doing that way in advance, it's not even a hint of fairness. It's all political, ram it down your throat, suffer the consequences. Too bad if you don't like it. And that's offended Arnold Schwarzenegger so much that he's gone public. It's offended a number of groups that are kind of middle of the road, and many of the Democrats that served on these independent commissions have bravely gone against Newsom on this. There's a great battle within the Democrats and the progressive, the ones that really truly believe in independent commissions. There's a huge battle going on within that community. But Republicans have one simple job. They got to show up November 4th. As soon as you get the ballot on October 10th, don't wait 1 minute. It's a nice question, yes or no. Do you want Newsom's power grab to be successful, or do you want it done and so his political career is over? So that's the message. We have to get our conservatives focused on the day they get the mail ballot. I don't like mail ballots, but that's the world we live in. And vote no and turn it in as quickly as possible. That's our entire approach.
You mentioned Steve Scalise, the congressman from Louisiana who was shot while practicing for the congressional softball game. Your wife served with Congressman Scalise in the United States Congress. After he was shot by that attempted assassin, did she notice any change in him? Did she notice he was a changed man, or how did that impact him on a day-to-day basis?
He's worked hard at recovery. He's lost a lot of weight. The kind of damage that he experienced is hard for most people to understand, but his resilience is quite remarkable. But he doesn't have the same quick step. How can he? He had huge orthopedic injuries. But he's got a good brain, mercifully. He works hard. He shows up. He does a lot of campaigning. He's not retiring. And he's got a good team of people that he works with. But, that was just a miracle. It didn't hit a vital organ, or it didn't hit, something that would have put him in bed for the rest of his life. That's quite miraculous. That's why this shooting of Charlie Kirk is so concerning. Was it on the side of the neck? Was it in his throat? Now the hospital's saying he's in critical condition. You never want to hear that. You never want to hear it. He's a young man with a young family, just an all-around good guy. And, he's concerned about the culture, not about politics. So that's what we have. We're in the middle of this huge eruption in our society. And Trump's trying to restore the American core values, and the left is literally fighting it tooth and nail, and now with violence. Well, we have a shot in taking down a big step that the left is trying to make on November 4th and voting against Newsom.
When your wife was in Congress and she was deciding whether or not to put her name on the ballot and run for re-election, was this something that you guys discussed as a family of the insane people that live among us who get all ginned up one way or the other on a particular issue or against particular personalities? And whenever you do put your name on the ballot, you are putting yourself out there. And if there's a nut that decides that they don't like your position on an issue or they don't like the cut of your jib, then you could potentially be a target. And no one has 24/7 security that can prevent something like this. I would imagine that the possibility of something like this happening is something that many candidates discuss with their family before they move forward.
We certainly did, and I always had great concerns about security. So we've asked friends, particularly in Orange County, to accompany Michelle. I usually accompanied her myself, and I have a concealed carry for that very purpose. She received credible threats against her when she was a county supervisor, for goodness sake. She had highway patrol protection when she was on the State Board of Equalization, for goodness sakes. So it's always been a concern. So yeah, we have a highly secured home that we live in a nice, secure area where we live in, with lots of eyes and cameras and that sort of thing, and any suspicious behavior is immediately detected. Great neighbors. That was our office. We were attacked by Hamas supporters. She was attacked at our office. She wasn't there, but they had 100 of these yelling Palestinian pro-Hamas supporters attacking her position by defending Israel and Jews. And so we had to tighten up that security to make sure it wouldn't happen again. So it's always a concern. You'd be foolish to think that you can go anywhere without any risk whatsoever.
Yeah, when people think, okay, what do politicians or candidates consider before they decide if they jump in? Whether or not they have the stomach to sit at a table and make phone calls and raise money, whether you're willing to sit on an airplane for 5-6 hours a couple times a week. Certainly all of those concerns are things that you battle with in your own head. But the security concerns are real, and I would imagine they are just as much as part of the conversation as anything else.
No, more than ever. You know, you saw a number of conservative candidates die mysteriously in Germany, 7 before. These are regional elections, and that I hope that's investigated. The president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, was attacked by a knife wielding, just nearly killed the candidate. He won, was a great president. But, it's been kind of a one-way street in this kind of stuff, and I don't want it to be a two-way street. I just want those that are identified as potential assassins, and many times we see the signs before they conduct the murderous spree, and they're the ones that need to be either given extreme medical, psychological help, or they need to be arrested. We have too many of these people that are running around that are dangerous to themselves and the people around them.
All right. Shawn Steel, thank you so much for stopping by on this very
It's a day that we hope is going to turn out to be a much better approach, much better news for Charlie Kirk. We're all praying for him. Thank you.
It's the John Phillips Show, and here with breaking news on the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Mr. Randy Wang.
This is now coming from the university where we originally thought there was a suspect in custody. As breaking news happens and stories evolve, a suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk is not in custody per the university to multiple outlets. So the shooter who allegedly shot Kirk from 200 yards away is still at large. That's the latest that we know right now.
It's the John Phillips Show on a very depressing Wednesday, as news has come out of the state of Utah. Charlie Kirk of Talking Points TPUSA was shot in the neck while speaking to college students at a university there. It happened moments before we signed on the air. Randy and I were meeting. We were talking about the sound to go over for today's show. And whenever one of these things happens, it's very difficult to get accurate information in real time. Initially, there were 2 different reports that were out. One was he was shot at, and one that he was shot.
That came from the same guy.
Yeah, and so we were trying to get confirmation as to which one it is, because if someone was shot at, that's very different than being shot. Obviously, one doesn't necessarily mean you were hit, and one means that you were hit, and that is a very, very serious situation. So at first, we were hopeful that he was shot at but not hit, and then right as we were signing on the air, we were told, oh no, he was hit, and he was hit in the neck. So from that point forward, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, do they have the shooter? And initially, not long after the shooting was confirmed, they said that they had a man in custody. And not only did they have a man in custody, but they had video of the guy being arrested who was screaming something that I couldn't make out because we're doing a live radio show literally as all of this is coming in. And we don't know which accounts have the correct information because we're looking at social media along with everyone else, and which accounts are putting out information that's not true. And we don't want to come out and give you information that turns out not to be true. Well, many news organizations were running with the fact that they believed that the shooter was in custody. So we broadcasted that to you. But Randy, as it turns out, that wasn't true.
Yeah, now according to the reports that are out from the university, the person that was detained was not the suspect, and the suspect apparently took that shot from over 200 yards away and is not in custody, meaning that suspect is at large.
So obviously the next question that people want to know is, how is Charlie Kirk doing? Is he going to survive the gunshot? Has he been pronounced dead? We're looking at social media, and you have people saying everything that I just mentioned and more. And here's the thing. Typically, there are certain places that you can go to where you can verify information. So let's say that we receive reports. We're in Southern California. Let's say we receive reports that there was an earthquake in Northern California. Well, obviously, we're not physically there, so we can't tell if the room was shaking or not. Maybe if it was big enough in Northern California, we'd feel it down here. So you go to places that you would assume would have accurate information. You'd go to the U.S. Geological Survey. You'd go to Caltech. You'd go to various accounts that exist to do nothing but track seismic activity. And if you look at 2 or 3 of them that you regard as credible, and they're all saying the same thing, then you can feel comfortable moving forward and reporting it. The thing about this is I really don't know who to trust on this until the family comes out with a statement one way or the other, or his doctor comes out with a statement one way or the other. I don't want to jump the gun and tell you something that's not true just because someone who thinks that they have credibility goes on Twitter and makes a statement, a declarative statement.
I mean, at this point, I'm seeing accounts that I follow reposting accounts that I don't know that are reporting news. So I don't know if I can verify that information.
No. And it puts you, when you're broadcasting live, when a breaking news event is happening, in a horrible place because you don't want to suppress information, but you also don't want to bring information that isn't true. And in this particular case, you could say, well, wait till the Associated Press comes out with it, or wait until the local newspaper in Utah comes out with it, the Deseret News, or wait until X cable channel, Fox or whatever. Well, for Charlie Kirk, he is a guy who comes from the right. He's a conservative broadcaster. He's a conservative intellectual. He's a conservative writer. He does a lot of things. He wears a lot of hats. If you're his family, are you going to talk to CNN, or are you going to talk to the New York Times? Are you going to trust these people to get the story out? So I would imagine that for most people in the news where they say, well, I'm going to wait until the Associated Press comes out with it, or CNN, or the New York Times. In this particular circumstance, they may be the last to know. And it may be someone who you've never heard of or I've never heard of that gets the story accurately first, because that's the person that his assistants are talking to, or his wife is talking to, or his doctor is talking to, because that's the person they trust. The bottom line is there's a lot of news, there's a lot of noise that's out there, and much of it is conflicting right now. There's a lot that you look at, you say, okay, I think I understand what's going on, and then you click refresh, and then you hear something that's the exact opposite. And you go, okay, in theory, both of these people should know what they're talking about, but they're saying things that are antithetical to one another. And that's what's going on. And then when you deal with a large crowd and you deal with chaos, because whenever you have a shooting like that in a public space, people just start fleeing. I mean, if you've seen the videos of what happened there were a lot of students who were there to hear from him. And they were there, and you've seen this depicted on television before, where you have him on stage at a college, and you have different microphones around the amphitheater or the quad or wherever they happen to be. And you have people who are sitting there watching, some people standing in line getting ready to ask questions, people who are videotaping it, people who are live on social media as it's going on. And then all of a sudden you hear gunshots ring out and people just start running every which way. And when you have these chaotic sort of events, different people see different things and different people post things that may be true or may not be true. And it's up to the rest of us to go through it and to decide which claims have credibility and which claims don't. So as of right now, what we know for sure is that he was shot, he got hit in the neck, he lost a lot of blood, he was immediately taken by authorities, by medical professionals, into put on a gurney and was taken out. I read that he was airlifted to a hospital and was declared to be in critical condition in that hospital. I assume they're performing surgery on him, but outside of that, we can't confirm anything else regarding his condition.
Well, I think there might be something that we can go with now. President Donald Trump just posted on Truth Social, and I'm reading this verbatim. The great, and even legendary Charlie Kirk, is dead. No one understood he had the heart of the youth, the United States, better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and his family. Charlie, we love you. That got posted about 2 minutes ago, and a lot of people are running with it.
Well, that's depressing. But if the president of the United States is putting it out, it's true.
He was 31 years old.
What a tragedy. What an unbelievable tragedy. That someone doing their job, doing what they're passionate about, interacting with college kids, can't have a debate in a public place at a university where people are paying a fortune to go to without political violence silencing their voice. It is a dark, dark, dark day in America where something like this happens. Just appalling. That some complete nut is able to do something like this to a voice like his is hard to wrap your mind around. Political assassination, as I mentioned earlier, is a form of terrorism. It's political violence. Terrorism is defined as political violence. Any violence that takes place that is designed to either promote or to suppress a political ideology, a political belief system, that is terrorism. What happened at this university is terrorism. It's not terrorism as you think of when you think of international terrorism, but this is the textbook definition of political violence. And you can't overreact enough to something like this. People have a right to have their say in a public space. He had every right to be there having that conversation, that political dialogue with those students. And the fact that someone who clearly had evil in their heart was able to not just stop that discussion from happening, but to permanently silence his voice through political violence makes today an unbelievably dark day. It's a dark day for American universities. It's a dark day for American politics. It's a dark day for public discourse. It's a dark day for all of the above. I feel like I want to throw up. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. A very sad day for America. As Randy, we just now received confirmation from President Trump that Charlie Kirk was in fact assassinated while speaking to students in the state of Utah.
Died at the age of 31. He was just doing what he usually does, an event at a college, talking to people he disagrees with, and someone has silenced his voice forever. It is a stomach-churning kind of day.
It's hard to believe that he's 31 because I feel like he's been on the scene for a very long time, and that shows you how young he was when he started.
I mean, it started, showing up in my social media circles probably about 10 years ago at the rise of the first Trump campaign. But at that point, he was just a kid, but he was doing something that nobody else was doing, which was talking to that younger generation that most people had written off as completely politically disconnected and didn't care.
And you look at the results of his work, where in this last election, it's almost as if it was a complete inverse of what you would expect, where usually the younger voters are voters that are locked in with the Democratic Party, and the older voters turn out and vote for the Republican. But this time around, Donald Trump had great appeal to younger voters, and it was the older voters, especially if you look at the 2020 election, who drifted away from the Republican Party to the Democrats. Now, Charlie Kirk didn't focus on the older voters. That was not his mission. His mission was taking the argument to younger voters, and he was extremely successful with what he was doing.
It was a massive organization, a grassroots thing. You know, when people say grassroots organizations had started from nothing, it got him to national prominency. He had a nationally syndicated radio show on the other end of the dial, and it's just he achieved a tremendous amount of success. Literally, the first thing Gavin Newsom asked him when he had him on that podcast a few months ago was, how did you get this successful doing what you're doing? And it is painful to think that got snuffed out at the age of 31.
Well, I'll tell you something else. When you're that successful, that young, you're not sitting around your mom's basement playing video games. You're out living life. You're out doing what you have a passion for every moment that you're awake. And when you look at someone that young, 31 years of age, who accomplished as much as he did in that short period of time on planet Earth, you're talking about someone who didn't leave much on the table. You're talking about someone who was out there living life every single day. And we spend a lot of time on this program, whether it be Fire Aid or the homeless organizations or others, that are able to raise a lot of money and receive a lot of money in those cases from governmental entities and things of that nature. And then you ask the question, well, okay, you're raising a ton of money. What are you doing with it? How are you moving the ball forward? And with Charlie Kirk, his organization was very successful. They were able to raise a lot of money. But you never had to ask the question, well, what are they doing with it? Because you saw it on a daily basis. I don't know what kind of travel schedule he had, but I know that when he was out here meeting with Gavin Newsom for the podcast, and then I think he did an interview with Fox 11's Alex Michelson as well, I know that he was on his way to a local university to talk to students. I mean, it was just what he did, where he's just one of these guys that's always in a hurry, one of these guys who's just going from place to place to place to place because he had a lot to do. He didn't want to sit around and shoot the breeze. He was a man on the move. And at 31 years of age, to have that life snuffed out, you have to ask yourself, okay, if he accomplished all of this by 31 and he had no signs of slowing down, what could a man like that accomplish in a lifetime?
I think it was just a couple of months ago that his radio company, Salem, announced that he was going to be replacing Dennis Prager. I mean, that was huge.
Oh, yeah. Dennis Prager, an institution in syndicated radio, who has had some health challenges in recent months. You don't replace a guy like Dennis Prager with someone lightly. That is not a decision that any radio company wants to make, and that's not a decision that any radio company wants to make if they make the wrong decision. And he was the guy that they picked. And I said it before, I can't repeat it enough. I'm sick to my stomach. I'm sick to my stomach today. There's no other way to describe it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. It's the John Phillips Show.